First tonight, it's fair to say not many of us knew what we wanted to do with our lives when we were 5 years old. Zac Stearns does not fall into that category. Stearns grew up in central Maine, but his love for acting and the arts has taken him to professional stages all over our state, New England, and now the Midwest. He shares those stories in his first book, Five to Places, Memoirs of a Theater Kid. And as he tells Samantha, Zac never knew he would become an author, but says he always knew the stage was where he belonged.
Well, my grandmother always said that when I was born with a top hat and a cane. And I think that's true. I think it's true. My mom showed me a VHS copy of Singin' in the Rain when I was a kid, and I was like, what was so interesting about it was the story moved seamlessly into the music, and the music seamlessly moved the plot along. And I thought, well, what a cool way to tell a story. And I knew when I saw it, I said, this is really something special.
How long have you known that you would write a book one day? Or did you just kind of wake up recently and you're like, you know what, it's time, I'm gonna write something? Where did the idea come from?
I met with David Sedaris years ago while I was living in New Haven, Connecticut. He and I met for coffee, and we sat down and I told him, I'm thinking about writing a book about all this theater stuff I'm doing. He said, it has to be your voice. It has to be you, authentically you. It can't be anybody else. You can't be going, what does the reader want to read?
Which can be hard.
Yeah. Well, that's what, so it's a polar opposite of what I do for a living. Because as a director, I go, what does the audience want to see in this moment? What would be a fun bit to really bring the entertainment value, but stay true to the story? This was something completely different. I was extremely vulnerable. Since then, this has kind of been, I did it, I put it away, I did it, I put it away. And then when COVID hit, I sat down and really thought, okay, let's do this. When I moved to Wisconsin and started my new journey out there, I thought, well, I'm closing a chapter of my theatrical life here in Maine. That this is the moment. I need to do this now. And so I buckled down and finished it last year.
You said that you're directing now, you're doing a lot of stuff that's kind of behind the scenes. When you were young, was it like, I want to be on stage, I want to be out there, or did you think about directing then?
No.
No?
I started out and said, I'm going to be an actor. And I went to school and I was like focused on acting. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an actor. Acting is so great. It's freeing. And I have total ADD where I go through phases where I go, I just want to perform for a few years. And that's what I do. I go out and I audition. I get a couple gigs, I perform, and then in that process, I go, I have a lot of ideas. I learn a lot because you're watching other people work. And when you're in that setting and you're watching other people work, you go, oh, that would be great. I could do something with that. And then I go, okay, I'm ready to direct. Right. And then I direct for a few years. And it ebbs and flows every couple of years.
The book covers everything from your childhood, you know, the very beginning stages, your time at USM, your time working with different theater companies here in Maine.
Yeah.
I just wondered, as you were putting it together, was it nostalgic for you? Did it bring up anything for you as you were kind of looking back and then putting it onto paper?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my time at USM was some of the greatest years of my life. I enjoyed every show I worked on over there. It gave me all the skills that I could use in my professional life. And then there's sections of the book, you know, obviously most people know I was the artistic director at Schoolhouse and spent 5 years at Schoolhouse. And that was an amazing part of my journey. Vulnerability, I think, is the biggest one. I've told a lot of these stories on stage in my stand-up routine and stuff. Like, a lot of these stories are not unheard of, but the difference between telling a story and writing it down is I tell a story and it becomes a memory. When you write it down and it becomes concrete, it becomes material, it becomes real. They take it with them and they keep it in their house. So, you know.
It's scary.
Yeah.
A little scary.
It sure is, but it's been a lot of fun.
When people read this, what do you want them to take away from your stories? Are you hoping they learn something?
If you're a theater person and you're reading this book, I hope you get a little insight on what the business is like and things that I've learned along the way, right? The through line of this story is a show I did in Bath with Dan Burson, who was the director. It was a David Sedaris show. It was Santaland Diaries. It's a one-man show, and I went up on opening night.
Wow.
I mean, completely gone, and that's where the book starts, is, you know, it just starts with like, I forgot everything. And I shaved like 20 minutes off the first act, and I was in my dressing room and I cried and I cried. Actors know what that's like. If you're a theater person, you know what that's like. But if you're not a theater person, it brings a little bit more empathy into the world of theater. I say on stage a lot, well, I have a degree in pretend, but it's so much more than that. And so hopefully when people read the book, if you're a theater person, you'll get some insight, and maybe that can help you in your journey. And if you're not a theater person, but you appreciate the arts, it's just an interesting read, I hope.
Yeah.
I hope. I think so. Whether or not there's another book, I don't know. I mean, I didn't know this was going to happen. So maybe I need to have lunch with David Sedaris again, and maybe he'll push me in the right direction.
David?
Yeah.
Can we get David on the phone, please?
Give me a call.
You can find Zac Stearns' book, 5 to Places, Memoirs of a Theater Kid, at Barnes & Noble.